God does not want us to be the fly to our children's mess. Instead, he wants us to be a fan. Grace and peace, everybody. Welcome to Sabbath School Study Group. This is a new 5-part series in the lesson of Ephesians. We're looking now primarily at the 6th chapter, and today we find some advice to parents. Once again, we are actually on the road, this time heading towards Mississippi to celebrate family, and we're grateful to God for that. We want to wish our mother, my mother-in-law, happy birthday, and thank God for another year of life. With that said, going to celebrate a parent, let's talk about advice to parents. It's right there in Ephesians chapter 6. It's there in verse number 4, where it says, "And ye fathers, provoke not your children to wrath, but bring them up in the nurture and admonition of the Lord." Whether it's a mess or trash, even, not to get too graphic, but literal messes, you will notice, especially in the warmer months and in the warmer regions, that's where flies tend to gravitate. That's where they go to, and they make more of that mess. They build off of that mess. They actually feed off of it. And in doing that, they pass around the germs from that mess. And they just are the general nuisances that are usually indicative that if they're around, there's probably a mess around. Here we see a shift in Ephesians chapter 6, where fathers have a power, and we have a unique gift to provoke to wrath. And I would suggest that the reason why we have a unique gift to provoke is because we also have a unique power to encourage. Where on the verse it says, "Don't provoke children to wrath," that's the natural response to any mess or to all trash in a sinful, broken world. But instead now, rather than becoming a fly, the Lord's actually calling me. He's actually calling us as parents, all of us, but especially fathers, to be fans. Another 3-letter word. What do we mean by a fan? Not that we are glad about the mess that has been made, but as a fan, what do fans do? What makes somebody a fan of anybody? No matter what it is, whatever the vocation or the activity, by definition, a fan has to be someone who cheers someone else on. They root for them. They follow them. And they're not necessarily, in this case, obviously with a parent and a child, you're not following that child out of some type of subservience, but you're following that child because of your desire for their success. You become a fan. You cheer them forward. You see that again in Colossians chapter 3. In Colossians chapter 3, Paul says it this way: "Fathers, provoke not your children to anger, lest they be discouraged." So there you see it. Clearly, the inference is that we're encouraged to not, no pun intended, we're encouraged to not discourage, but by default, the inference of Colossians 3 is that we're actually put in a position to encourage. We should be our children's cheerleaders in chief. We've got old school encouragement for these new school issues, even today in the social media age. Don't discourage, encourage. Don't be a fly to the mess, be a fan, even in their mess. Cheer them through, push them through, encourage them through. Because one more verse that we can take home with us here is in 1 Samuel 20. And this is not so much a verse of instruction, but it's a verse that literally tells a story of how powerful and how far a fly of a parent, a fly of a father, or discouraging of a parent can be. It's the story of Jonathan. Jonathan and his father, Saul. Saul questions Jonathan's affiliation and relationship to David. And in doing it, look at Saul's reaction to their relationship and friendship, which was rooted in their mutual faith to God. Where does Saul go? It says, "And Jonathan answered Saul his father and said unto him, Wherefore shall he be slain? What had he done?" This is in response to Saul saying, "How could you go with that guy? How could you be with that boy? He's my enemy. I don't like him." Look at how far Saul went as a discourager. The words of Saul lead to the works of Saul, where Saul cast a javelin at him to smite him. whereby Jonathan knew that it was determined of his father to slay David. See, a lot of us remember the instance where Saul tries to kill David, but many may not know or remember or recall that he tried to do the same thing to Jonathan. He became more than a fly. He becomes a snake. He becomes a lion to devour his own child for all different reasons, and that's a whole nother study. But Saul stands as a out there example of the power that a father can have in building or breaking their child. And we as parents, both as fathers and mothers, and we as mentors, whether it's as papa or grandma, whether it is auntie or uncle, even as a teacher, or even as anyone in authority, but the fact that that child is looking at us, here we have counsel in Ephesians 6, that we can use that power to switch or to activate the work of God in a child's life just by being an encourager. And the cool thing about an encourager, someone who's cheering someone on in a race, I don't have to really know where they're running. I don't have to know what's the destination. But like those people on the sideline of a race, total strangers. But when you're in a marathon, and when you're in a journey, and that person is cheering you on, and they don't even know you, and you don't know them, the power of encouragement, it's not lethal, it's life-giving. It's the discouragement that's lethal. And we want to pray and heed this advice from Ephesians chapter 6 to choose to cheer.